friends. I want to talk to you today a little bit with a whiteboard. We're going to be looking at how Jesus lived a life in balance. Jesus cared most in the world about relationship, and there were three kinds of relationship that he cared the most about. And as believers in Jesus, as disciples of Jesus, we're invited to grow into the image of Jesus. In Ephesians chapter 4, the Apostle Paul says that we're being invited to grow into the full measure of Christ, to really grow up. And so if we want to grow up, we need to look at Jesus and what his life looked like so that we might understand what our goal is. So in order to do that, I'm going to have us look together at Luke chapter 6. We're going to read from verses 12 to 19. I'm reading from the NIV. One of those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray, and he spent the night praying to God. When morning came, he called his disciples to him, and he chose 12 of them, whom he also designated apostles. Simon, whom he named Peter, his brother Andrew, James, John, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James, son of Alphaeus, Simon, who was called the Zealot, Judas, son of James, and Judas Iscariot, who became a traitor. He went down with them and stood on a level place. A large crowd of his disciples was there, and a great number of people from all over Judea, from Jerusalem, and from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases. Those troubled by evil spirits were cured, and the people all tried to touch him, because power was coming from him and healing them all. So in that passage, we get a picture of Jesus living a life in balance. But it all begins with up. It all begins with his relationship with the Father. He begins on the mountaintop. He's spending time, presumably in worship, presumably giving God glory for who God is. And as he does that, he receives from the Father. He receives the Spirit. He receives the energy that he needs. And from up, we see Jesus move in. He moves in with his spiritual family. Eventually, literally, in Capernaum, he does that, but figuratively, spiritually, in relationship, Jesus shares life with his disciples, and in that sharing, they get to know Jesus and learn how to imitate Jesus in essential ways. From up and spending time in with his family, we then see a move out, where Jesus and his disciples are doing ministry just before the Sermon on the Mount. They're doing ministry where physical healing is coming. Spiritual freedom is available, where the power of God is on full display, and the kingdom of God is being demonstrated to the masses. But I'll draw that final leg there to show you that Jesus really does live a life in balance, that he lives a life first up to the Father, then in with his spiritual family, and ultimately out, demonstrating the kingdom of God. And sometimes we're tempted to believe that life is a zero-sum game, that our life is all about out, or it's all about in, or it's all about up. You know, some folks will say, well, I just live for doing ministry, or I live for worship, or I live for time with my spiritual family. But the truth that we see in the life of Jesus is that they're in balance, that they feed each other, that together he is the full image of God in the flesh. And his ministry out is made stronger because he shared it with his family in. His ability to move inward and be with his spiritual family originates with the time that he spent receiving identity from his Father up. So to just sum up real quick, I would say up, a basic way to move upward toward God is in worship. A basic way to move inward toward our spiritual family is in fellowship. That can be in a Bible study, but it can also just be shared time. It can be watching a basketball game. It can be spending time at dinner with our spiritual family. And out looks like Christian ministry. It could be a ministry of listening, like our Stephen ministers. It could be a tangible ministry, like our senior craftsmen building a handicap ramp. But these three things, lived in balance, allows us to look like Jesus. We'll dig into each of these in more depth in future conversations, but I just wanted to invite you into a place of being a learner of Jesus, living a life in balance like he did.